Hi guys, Jamie from Wombat Wash. Another video today. Going to be quite a bit longer, and we're going to dive into a lot more practical knowledge. We're going to cover sodium hypochlorite, SH, bleach, a little bit about it, and what mix ratios and how to apply it a little bit. I've got a little bit of a Hoop Diaz demo here, but we're going to cover mix ratios and yeah, how to sort of calculate that a little bit, plus with some other information. So let's get started. All right, I have here a 20 litre drum of pool chlorine, aka sodium hypochlorite. The important part here is, if it's focused there, 125 grams per litre of available chlorine. Now, for the sake of argument, let's just assume that sodium hypochlorite is exactly the same specific gravity as water. That makes it a 12.5% mix, because there is 1,000 grams of water per litre. Now, just for a little bit of comparison, this is a standard sort of house bleach, you know, your kind of White King sort of situation. Clearly see that's 4%. So the stuff we're dealing with is 3 times the strength of your normal household bleach. Just to keep that in mind. If you're familiar with using one, it's a bit of a different ball game to use the other. Now, there was a question earlier about mix ratios, percentages, and all of that, and what the sort of done thing is. Now, I'm going to tell you 2% is your sweet spot. 2.5, sort of you can go up to your 3, like, consider it all rounding errors. But 2% with good dwell time is going to get most of the jobs done most of the time, and it's just a good mix. There's actually a paper that I read that explained that 2% is where SH will start breaking down or denaturing spider silk, which means it'll be weaker and less sticky, which means you should be able to rinse it off. It's definitely going to start killing mold, because, I mean, your household bleach that is at 4%, it says to mix that at 5 to 1, 10 to 1, all different depending on the application, and that still kills most microbes as a sanitizing agent. So anything above 2% is a bit of an odd case, and I'm calling out the cowboys out there spraying 6% neat or anything like that. Fight me in the comments, I don't care. You are playing with fire. Just because you haven't had a problem doesn't mean you haven't had a customer that's had a problem, probably didn't really want to deal with you and complain, or you might just be really lucky and you haven't had a problem yet. But fact of the matter is, yeah, 2%, 3% with good dwell for house washing and stuff is definitely going to get the job done. You know, roofs that have got some really heavy build-up, and depending on the climate, or exposed aggregate that's never been looked after, that it's gone completely black, yes, there is some room for stronger mixes. But the time is money mentality, just walk before you run. All right, let's get into how to get to that 2%. So I've got this little demo here, but for the sake of argument, we're just going to call it 12%, not 12.5, because by the time you get down to your dilutions, that number isn't really going to change a lot. So let's have a look. So here I've mixed up some red food coloring with water to represent our bleach. Now, just to solidify the comparison, think of this red liquid. There is X amount of red food coloring in, what's that, 1800 water. Now, that there is X amount of sodium hypochlorite in 20 litres of basically water. So keep that in mind, because as I pour out 100 ml of bleach, that is, for the sake of argument, 12% sodium hypochlorite in there. So now, if I just add water, and now that's 200 ml, I haven't changed the amount of sodium hypochlorite that's in this container, but I've changed the amount of water. So there's still the same amount of little sodium hypochlorite molecules floating around in here, but it's now got twice as much room to float around in. So the concentration is now halved, 6%. So now, if I was to double that again to 400 ml, we now have what was 1 part bleach to 3 parts water. Same amount of sodium hypochlorite molecules floating around, but with a lot more water. And I just wanted to illustrate, hopefully it comes nicely on camera, but you know, that's that dilution. That's why this has gone a lot lighter than the original color. So now, because we went from 12%, we doubled the total volume, that gave us 6%. We doubled the total volume again, that gave us 3%. Does that make sense? Because if you were to just add another 100 ml of water, you're not doubling the total volume, you're increasing it by 50% of the total, which means you wouldn't cut the concentration in half, it would be in between. So let's just write that down on paper. We'll do a little bit of schoolwork here, just to simplify. Hopefully I can try to get this to focus. Now, like I said, let's go 1 to 1. That is 1 part water to 1 part SH. But that equals 2 parts in total. Now, that's the important part, because you'll see when you get to other ratios. Let's just take 5 to 1, for example. A lot of people only focus on this number. That's not correct, because that's only illustrating the water volume versus your actual concentrated, your SH volume. So what you need to do is combine these to get your total of 6 parts, because that's going to be your final volume. Now, if we have six parts total, but we're starting with a 12% mix, well, when you add your 5 parts to that to create that 6 total, that 12 is going to be spread out over that entire volume, which means your 12% mix is going to be divided by 6 parts. 12 divided by 6, 2. So your final solution is going to be 2%. And I know it's kind of obvious, but just to make it a lot more straightforward, let's just go to whole litre amounts. If you had 1 whole litre of SH to 5 whole litres of that, you are going to get 6 litres total. So just remember that that's your total volume as well. So you can just double check and mixing quantities up easier, especially if you're using, you know, like a pump sprayer there where you've just got whole litre amounts, and once you sort of understand it, you don't have to really mess around with partial volumes. So that is a very simplified sort of overview of how to mix your standard 12%. Just quickly, because this is going a lot faster than I thought, if you, for whatever reason, had to deal with the White King stuff, the domestic stuff, remember that's 4%. All these equations are going to work the same, but you just got to remember that you're starting at a different value. So at 4%, mixing that at 1 to 1, remember this equals 2 now, because that's going to be 2 parts. So that's 2 parts over your 4% is going to be 2%. Hopefully that explains it, makes it easy for you. I guess we can talk about some applications. That pump sprayer, honestly, if you're a groundskeeper or you're, you know, a lawn guy and you're just doing a bit of soft washing or pressure washing on the side, then a good weed sprayer with the Viton seals, because the normal nitrile will deteriorate. So will the other stuff, but it's just going to last a lot longer. You can get away with that. Like filling up 5 litres of your mix, it is, you know, you can get a lot done. Like you could do a sort of 2-car garage, just, you know, after you've pressure cleaned it post-treating, with that. Like that's not a problem. If you wanted to do a small house or a unit, like, yeah, you're going to be filling it up a couple of times, but if it's just a sort of one-off thing, or you're only doing it every now and then for 1 or 2 clients, you can 100% get away with that. You do not need to go and get a special soft wash system. However, you know, if it's your main business, let's quickly have a look. I use the X-Jet. There's a lot I want to say about this, because, you know, I've done a lot with it and it definitely works. For me, I don't do soft wash all day every day. I do pressure cleaning with a bit of soft wash, and I do a lot of brick cleaning as well. And so the X-Jet for me serves its purpose. I do, you know, the odd veranda or pool area or something like that needs a bit of a soft wash, and this gets the job done. Especially with my new machine, it can reach plenty far enough. And this thing, yes, they are exorbitantly expensive for what they are, but this is the only X-Jet I've ever owned, so it's been with me through my whole learning process, and the fact that it still functions and hasn't, you can see there's some corrosion in there. I do clean it out every now and then, but this has had everything from bleach to quart 40 through it. It's had hydrochloric acid. It's had, oh yeah, by the way, never mix hydrochloric acid or any acid with bleach. It is very, 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 very nasty. 100% rule number 1, keep your chemicals safe. Read your product disclosure statements or something. Just, yes, you do not want to be mixing acids with bleaches. It's going to go bad for you. So when I say I've run that through there, of course it was rinsed, it was in separate situations. Anyway, a bit of a longer video, deeper dive into how to mix your batches, and remember the same applies for your X-Jet orifices, that little card that I don't have on me at the moment. Has all your ratios. The exact same maths applies to that. Guys, I've been getting some good feedback. I've been getting some good feedback from these videos, privately, or just people that I've run into through the page, which is great. I'm seeing that it's getting a good amount of views, which is great. I'm really not doing this for attention. I'm doing it because I do want to help people. But having said that, I don't know where to go with it. I do need some feedback or some interaction from you guys as far as comments or send me messages, whatever, so I know what to cover. I did this video because I think I've seen in the last 2 days a few comments of people wanting clarification on how to mix chemicals. The next one I'm probably going to do, I'll sit in my office and do it rather than sit out here in my shitty carport. We'll be on over pricing, quoting, some more business related stuff. And yeah, we can get into that. But yeah, thanks guys. Hope you like the content.